I'm going to say a lot of things in this video about this Steven Crowder situation that a lot of people are not going to like. This is going to be a very unpopular opinion, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with people not liking what I have to say because this needs to be said, right? And I haven't posted on this channel in about a week or so, and I don't plan to post again after this video until another week or two because, ironically, I'm actually working on a video right now that requires a lot of research where I'm talking about my journey from starting as a liberal, you know, being a black American in this country, going over into conservatism or having a lot of conservative perspectives and going everywhere in between, right? That journey is going to be dope. It's the most well-researched video I'll ever drop on this channel. So I really hope that you all appreciate it and you all continue to rock with me.
Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast.
But what I want to talk about today is this guy by the name of Steven Crowder, right? He is a right-winger or conservative with a large platform. He's been under a lot of scrutiny lately because of some things that he said, some things that he's done. And most recently, there's this video that's come out showing him and his wife, who are going through a divorce at this time, if I'm remembering correctly, if it's not official already, of him saying some things to her where people are accusing him of being emotionally abusive, calling him a narcissist, things of that sort. And I want to use this example of why I can never be conservative. And a lot of people think that I'm conservative because I'm very critical of the so-called black community and the destructive trends that we follow in our so-called culture, in our communities, how critical I am of the LGBTQ community's movement, Black Lives Matter, the organization, not the slogan itself, right? But I'm actually not conservative, right? And today I want to use this example of what's happening with Steven Crowder as a prime example of why I'm not conservative and I can never be conservative, right? Because all of these people are hypocrites, and I'm going to show you how they're hypocrites, right? Officer Tatum, Candace Owens, two people that I agree with on a lot of topics. As conservatives, you all always scream, context matters. When other people are telling you, what are you talking about? You're crazy. You're this bad person. And you stand 10 toes down and you say, no, context matters. When we watch a so-called black man, that being George Floyd, murdered on camera, you all have all the justifications. You want to say, well, the media is telling you one thing, but what about the context? What about the context? He was a criminal. You're going to talk about how he had a counterfeit $20 bill. You're going to talk about how he was resisting arrest. You even want to talk about the fentanyl and the drugs that were found in his system during the autopsy. That's like a person being fed some poison that is supposed to kill them over a 3-month span. And the very first day that they are fed that poison, someone comes up and shoots them blank range. Someone comes up and beats them to death. And you say, well, they had poison in their system. What does that have to do with anything? What about the video? What does that have to do with the video? You say, well, context matters. Okay, since you all want to down that hill, keep that same energy. Context matters. Steven Crowder came out just a few months ago and called out Daily Wire, which a lot of people wasn't a fan of, which is a company that Candace Owens works for. You don't think Candace Owens has a bone to pick with Steven Crowder? But before we get into all of that, I want to react to this first video, which isn't Officer Tatum or Candace Owens, that helps sets the stage of what's going on with Steven Crowder. And I'm going to react to this video first.
But despite that, lately Steven has not been moving so smart, and it all really started when he came out with this video about his divorce and said some very questionable things.
I have been living with a proverbial boot on my neck for going on years now. Since 2021, I've been living through what has increasingly been a horrendous divorce. Now, let me say on the outset, to be clear, there is no infidelity, any kind of physical abuse at all on either side. And no, this was not my choice. My then wife decided that she didn't want to be married anymore. And in the state of Texas, that is completely permitted.
Now that's the first time that Steven makes this very strange assertion that his wife should not be allowed to get a divorce from him without his permission.
But that's not what he said at all. He didn't say that she needed his permission. You're trying to frame this in a different way. For a lot of you who don't know, Steven Crowder, self-proclaims to be a Christian. And if you know anything about biblical doctrine, then it's frowned upon to get a divorce. Right? And I know a lot of you don't believe in God, a lot of you don't believe in the Bible. But for those of you that do, and Steven Crowder claims to believe in the Bible, it is frowned upon to get a divorce. Right? You got to put this into its proper context. Here you have a man who's having health issues, by the way. Here you have a man who's been married to a woman. Here's a woman who has, he has children with, that's leaving him. Imagine the amount of pain that he's going through, right? So when you say that she's wanting to leave, this is a man who would like to fight for his marriage, and he has a woman in his life who's no longer willing to fight for their marriage. Of course that hurts. So it's not about her needing his permission. It's about him trying to understand why she would want to leave him.
Like, oh wow, the state of Texas actually believes in having personal liberties? Who would have thought?
It's been the most heartbreaking experience of my life, what I consider to be my deepest personal failure. And just so you know, my opinions on parenting and families have not changed. I've always believed that children need a mom and a dad, that divorce is horrible. And I still believe that children need a mom and a dad and that divorce is horrible.
And that's always been what Steven Crowder kind of tries to represent, is that the traditional family is what he believes in. And like, oh, I always treat my wife with the utmost respect.
That's not what he just said in that video. Once again, I do believe that Steven Crowder believes that you should treat your wife with dignity and respect, as I think we all should believe if we're in a marriage, which I'm not currently married at the moment. But that's not what he just said in the video. Once again, you're adding things, bro. He said that he believes that he believes that divorce is a bad thing. In so many words, I'm paraphrasing. But he believes that divorce is a bad thing, and he believes that, children need both a father and a mother in a home in their life. That's what he said, bro. You're adding things.
And also, just another note on that, there's been a lot of studies that show it actually does a lot more damage when parents stay together for the kid and continue on with their toxic relationship than to just get a divorce and continue to parent the kids separately with good communication. Yes, all kids do need a mother, all kids do need a father, but they don't necessarily need them to be together.
But in today's legal system, my beliefs don't matter. In Texas, divorce is permitted when one party wants it, period.
Wow.
So, and all this, one thing I want to be really clear about is certain. True north here is that my children are blameless, completely without fault, and so we decided to resolve these issues privately, as it's in their best interests, both emotionally and physically, to do so.
So right there is kind of another weird thing that he says, because he's trying to say like, oh, I was doing the noble thing, I was trying to keep this private, that's why I didn't tell you guys. And it was all for my children, it was all for my children. But then when you see the video I have to show you here in a second, it seems like he's only talking about this divorce stuff because he was trying to get ahead of this other story I'm about to show you.
It's pretty simple.
I want to say I do agree with that. I think Steven Crowder was being disingenuous, and I think he was jumping ahead of the curve because he has a large platform, and he decided to go ahead and put this statement out there to try to make himself look better by the time that this video came out, because he understood the perception and how it would be framed and how he would look.
I loved a woman so much that I married her. A woman who, despite all of this, I still love as the mother of my children. And she wanted something else for her life. That's not my choice. She simply wanted out, and the law says that that's how it works. Now, of course, look, I get it. There are multiple sides to every story, but one thing that is undeniable in this case is that it's no one's fault but my own, in that I picked wrong, and that's certainly not the fault of my children.
I mean, this guy cannot fathom the idea that someone would have the personal rights to be able to ask for a divorce.
Once again, that's not what Steven Crowder's talking about. I don't agree with a lot of things Steven Crowder has said, and I don't agree with Steven Crowder and some of the things that he said in the video that we're about to see. But once again, brother, he's not talking about personal rights. He's a Christian. He's talking about it from... Just imagine, that tells me that he's either not married, or he's never went through a divorce, or he don't know how that stuff works. Me having a mom who went through a terrible divorce twice, 2 times in her life, I know what that stuff is like. This man, when he says he picked wrong, yes, that sounds incredibly terrible, like a terrible thing to say. But what I think that he's talking about is that he thought that he was with a woman, and when he committed to these vows, and he really meant and really believed until death do us part. Instead, I don't know the details of their marriage, I don't know. But I'm just saying, he has a woman who's leaving him. He probably was under the impression that they would try therapy or try all these other, resources to try to make their marriage work. And yet and still, the woman that he thought he married isn't that person because she's trying to leave him. Imagine how much that hurts when you were a husband, a father, living together with all these years of love and all these memories. All of that stuff is down the drain now. What are you talking about?
And then he goes on to say, oh, this was all no one's fault but myself for picking the wrong woman. I picked the wrong wife.
And I will say that what's in the best interest of my children is not internet drama, speculation, certainly not blatant or veiled shakedowns or dragging their father or mother, and I can't be clear on that enough, or their mother through the mud.
I mean, you just dragged her through the mud, my guy.
No, he didn't. He did not drag her through the mud. Name one bad thing that he said about his wife in this video. The worst thing that you can say he picked the wrong woman. That don't mean he's talking about her character. It can mean that maybe they just were not, compatible. They were incompatible. In that sense, he picked the wrong woman. She could be a good person. He could be a good person. But their views and their personal, perception, like those things just didn't align, right? Their political views, who knows? They didn't align. That don't make her a bad person. He never said anything bad about her. One time in the video. You're lying. He didn't drag her through the mud. Be accurate, man.
And he keeps trying to use his kids as some sort of shield, like, oh, don't say anything bad about me, These kids wouldn't want to see that about their father.
Now we're going to react to Officer Tatum, who once again has an axe to grind with Steven Crowder. And not because Steven Crowder is wrong, but it's because Steven Crowder came after Candace Owens. And Candace Owens is good friends with Officer Tatum. So let's see what he says. And once again, pay attention to the hypocrisy in this video. This is my problem with conservatives.
I made a video yesterday regarding the Candace Owens Steven Crowder thing. And Steven Crowder, in my opinion, and I said this on my radio show and I said this in my YouTube video, I only had a little bit of respect for him after the Daily Wire thing, but then I lost all of it. He made the video about Candace Owens. Now I had already addressed other stuff. He made the video about Candace Owens complaining and saying Candace Owens was threatened to unveil his divorce. And it's like, bruh, Candace didn't say nothing about you having a divorce. Nobody would even really know that Steven Crowder got a divorce until he said something about it.
So if you're familiar with the idea of extortion, then you know the feeling well. Now, some of these threats were so thinly veiled that I'm frankly surprised you didn't all guess immediately.
Steven has a lot going on. I guess is the best way to say it. He has a lot going on, and that should be clear because people don't do stuff like this if there's not a lot going on in their lives. I would like to implore my audience and everybody that isn't paying attention to this situation not to condemn him, but to pray for him. Sometimes people need a prayer. Sometimes people need a scripture. Steven purports to be a Christian. I am unsure at this moment if it is my place to say more than that. Maybe if I feel in further defense, some things should be said, or maybe if I feel that the public has a right to understand certain circumstances.
What could she be talking about? Now, I wouldn't say, I think Steven Crowder did exaggerate a little bit. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I know Candace did speak about that, but I'm not going to talk about that in this video. But there's no proof to say one way or the other. But I will say this. She did allude to saying something. And Candace Owens understands without actually, nailing exactly or talking about specifically what it is that she's referring to. She's leaving everything to speculation, insinuation. She knows that she's doing that, right? What could she be talking about? So in that sense, I would say that is kind of like a threat. If I feel the need to talk about something, to bring something up, just know I can bring it up. I have this information over here that I can talk about. What are you talking about? And let me also say this about Candace Owens. Candace Owens, I agree with this woman on a lot of topics. But the more and more this woman's platform has grown, the more and more Candace Owens has come off like a gossiper. And I hate to be stereotypical here, but her show comes off. There's a difference between what she does and journalism, right? It's not, you don't really feel like you're listening to journalism. It feels like you're listening to, I hate to be stereotypical, like a group of women sitting around talking negatively about other people. It don't seems like it doesn't come off as if she's just more concerned about the facts and just presenting it to the people. It comes off like gossip. She's very gossipy to me now.
From what I heard, him and his wife been separated for 2 years.
That's speculation, bro.
His show is not about his wife. It's not like his wife is a co-host on his show. Nobody knows. People only know Steven Crowder from his show and his comedy skits or his comedy shows. I've never seen his wife a day in my life. I couldn't even tell you what she looked like. I didn't even know he had kids. But I'm not a regular listener. But I do like his show, and I watch his show often. But he came out not to expose the fact that he's going through a trying time. He came out to get his message ahead of her message because she don't have a platform. Now,
Fair
I know
enough.
there's always two sides to the story. I was born during the
I
day,
agree
but I
with that.
wasn't born yesterday. And being a police officer taught me that in real time. But when I see a man get on the thing as a Christian man and say, I take full responsibility for this divorce, and my only fault in this is that I married the wrong woman. That I have zero respect for that.
Okay, so Officer Tatum, I have zero respect for you. You claim to be a Christian. Why do you have a picture of Donald Trump, which, by the way, that's a shirt that you designed. That's a shirt that you make money off of. Why is Donald Trump on your shirt? You say, well, what do you mean by that? That's not a big deal. Yeah, it is, because this man talked more about Donald Trump on his shirt than he does Jesus Christ himself. Right? If you're a Christian, if you're this person that you proclaim, Officer Tatum, I don't have respect for you that every single time you talk about black people on your show, it's because they're black people and they don't know how to act. They're sagging their pants, they're acting like savages, something got to be done about them. They have no home training, I'm so sick of them. They have no accountability, no responsibility. You have no type of empathy or sympathy for so-called black people. But whenever you talk about white people, it has nothing to do with the fact that they're white. When you talk about negative things with white people, it's because of transgenderism. It has to be because of their political views. It got to be because of their crazy perspective on work life or sexuality. But it has nothing to do with them because they're white. But when you talk about black people, it's strictly due because of their morals. I don't respect you for that.
Saying Candace Owens put my kids' lives in danger. That's some leftist foolery. Candace Owens never even mentioned that he got a divorce.
Yeah, but she alluded to it, bro. Now I want you to take a listen to Candace Owens as she prefaces us on the video that we're about to see of Steven Crowder and his wife on the back patio deck of what appears to be their home, right? Of them having a back and forth exchange of what happens a lot in marriages, but we're going to pretend like that's not a common thing in a lot of marriages. But anyways, let's see how she frames this video before we even watch it.
So a bit of breaking news that just happened. And before we get to it, I just want to back up and tell you why we are discussing this breaking news, because it's occurred to me that there are some people out there who believe that to be a conservative, what it means is that we become tribal and we defend other conservatives even when they do things that are wrong.
Happens
that we
a lot.
don't discuss things that are horrible on our own side because we need to just make sure that we score wins in other ways, and that is wrong. So that to me is the exact
Happens a
opposite
lot.
of why I have this platform. I am not tribal. I want to expose things when they are bad on the left, and I will also expose things when they are bad on the right.
Oh, is that right? Can somebody, one person out there, please, somebody find a video of Candace Owens criticizing Trump, slamming Trump, bashing Trump for being wrong about anything. Somebody, please. And I'm talking about an entire video of her going at Trump and calling him out for all the things that he's done wrong. Find that video. I'm not talking about that one video where she is a little critical of him. No, find the video where she bashes him. Somebody, please, somebody out there, anybody, find a video of Officer Tatum bashing Donald Trump for anything. Please. Donald Trump can't do anything wrong in these people's eyes. I don't care if you're conservative or not. If somebody's wrong about something, no. Because if I'm a conservative and if I'm following a politician and they're accused of something, they're being set up. They're somebody's lying on them. It's a conspiracy theory, right? It's a conspiracy because this is the person that I'm following and they have to be right. They're exempt from being wrong. They're not. It's not possible for them to do something wrong because you're following them. Yeah, you do exactly what you say you don't do. You all pretend like you look the other way when somebody on the right is doing something. You're going after Steven Crowder because Steven Crowder has come after you and Steven Crowder has come after the Daily Wire, which is the company that you work for. That is what this is about. Be honest. This is what I mean. Disingenuous, right? You all are hypocrites, right? And you all get on here and it's more about gossip.
Obviously, I have been interested in the Steven Crowder saga pertaining to his divorce because he literally inserted me into his divorce a couple of days ago. And his wife and family are now speaking out regarding that video in which he told people publicly that his wife was leaving him. You remember this. He chose wrong. And he essentially made it sound as if he did not want his marriage to end, but his wife simply wanted to leave. Well, she has responded by giving video, and I want to prep you. I want you to know this is horrific video. It is very difficult to watch. It's especially difficult to watch because in this footage, she is 8 months pregnant.
Okay, so just real quick. She said this video is about to be horrific between Steven Crowder and his wife. So if I had never seen this video and I heard the way she just put it, I should be expecting to see some sort of physical abuse. I should be expecting to see some sort of, furniture being thrown, even if it's not being thrown at another person. I should be looking to see something violent. You said that we're about to see something horrific, right? And a lot of times when you see something horrific, it's a lot of times physical harm on another person, right? Even if you're refusing to let them leave, right? Physically detaining someone. We should be looking for something like that, right? We shouldn't be just looking for or at the very least, we should be looking for yelling and confrontation in each other's face. That's what I would call horrific. But instead, let's see what we see instead.
And the video essentially reveals just how emotionally abusive he has been. And she is alleging that he has been emotionally abusive to her. And this video all but confirms it.
And let's go ahead and put something into perspective. When they talk about this emotionally abusive thing, it's actually a lot more equal. It's a lot more 50-50 than people realize when it comes to men and women being emotionally abusive to one another. It's not just so lopsided where the man is doing it to the woman, which is how she's trying to frame it, which is very ironic because Candace Owens, as a conservative, have talked about how people try to guilt trip and they try to gaslight people and use trigger words. And here you are playing into the same tricks, talking about he's doing this to his pregnant wife. It says for emotional abuse, prevalence rates were high, averaging around 80%. 40% of women and 32% of men reported excessive aggression, and 41% of women and 43% of men reported coercive control. Furthermore, new findings from the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey found that approximately half of Americans reported experiencing lifetime emotional abuse by a partner. Psychological aggression was measured by combining questions based on both expressive aggression, for example, name calling, and coercive control, for example, isolation tactics or threats of harm. Psychological aggression by an intimate partner was reported by 48.4% of women and 48.8% of men. Consequently, emotional abuse appears to be the most common form of IPV. And by these numbers, technically speaking, more men experience emotional abuse in relationships, according to these numbers in these reports, than women do. Yes, it is a very critical state, right? You should be very, very careful how you deal with a woman who's pregnant. Absolutely, because she has another human being forming inside of her. Absolutely. And you don't want anything to go wrong with that. So you want to be sensitive about it. But at the same time, you're making it sound like because she's a woman and she happens to be pregnant, then she's alleviated from doing anything wrong. Is it possible that she could be wrong and she could be guilty of something as well? Right? But I guess that's not possible here. You're not a conservative anymore and you don't believe it anymore because you have this vendetta out for Steven Crowder.
I drew a boundary. I drew a boundary. No, you just did it. I drew a boundary of abusive and cruel. You are not taking the car. Because if you refuse to do wifely things, then I will go pick up the groceries.
There's no groceries. I do have
Steaks, wood pellets, my grill. I know it's an unreasonable request, but I'll go do it. How about you first? Hillary, how do you respect the man? Yes, other than man, other than man, you see love and respect. No, other than man, no, you're not taking the car.
Steven,
You're not taking the car.
Steven,
You are not.
then I will ask someone to pick me up. Would you like me to ask?
Oh, that's right.
It's not threat, Steven.
Get an Uber.
Okay, Steven, I can't.
Feeling some constraints?
Steven.
Like, I can't
Steven.
go. Listen to me. You want to walk out right now? Listen to me. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to my parents. I can't call my friends. I can't be home. You're going to take the car and leave me here. Hillary, just think of how boxed in you've made me.
What do you need me to pick up? I'll get it. I'll be back when I'm back.
Walk the dog.
Steven,
Are you committed enough to do those things?
I,
Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm gonna just.
Walk the dogs. Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to get the medication?
So
What did you see that was horrific? Yes, we see a man who one could argue was being emotionally abusive, verbally abusive. Okay, yes, you see a man who you would say is talking to a pregnant woman and he wasn't mindful and very sensitive to the fact that she's pregnant. But There's a lot of things that's taken out of context with this video. Yes, I know a lot of people are not going to agree with this perspective. I'm okay with that because I've been in a relationship before, and I know I've been recorded before by a girl that I was with one time. We were having a heated debate, heated argument or whatever, and we're about 10-15 minutes into the back and forth, and then she started to re-ask me questions that she had asked at the very beginning, and I didn't quite understand why she was doing that, and I'm like, you already asked me that and I already answered. So I re-answered the question, but she understood at the time. I didn't understand why she was doing it at the time myself, but she understood that at the very beginning of the conversation, when things were very calm and things were very reasonable and I was answering those questions, it was different. Now that we're at 15 minutes into the conversation, she said a lot of things that don't make sense, right? I'm very angry that this has been a very one-sided, lopsided relationship, and I'm very frustrated talking about it. She's reacting questions that we've already covered at the very beginning of the conversation because she was framing it a certain way. I later found out that she was recording me. She was freaking recording me. But the beginning of the conversation was left out. And that's my problem here. One thing that people are already ignoring is that this recording is starting in the middle of a conversation. Where's the beginning of the conversation? And for those of you out there who want to hop in the comment section and say, well, there's no context that alleviates him or excuses him from speaking to his wife that way. Yeah, it does. I'm not saying that it's right to verbally abuse a person, but if you provide context, that is the word of today's video. Context, right? If you provide context to the situation, then you understand a little bit better how that conversation may have gotten to that point. Right?
So that is both heartbreaking and infuriating for me to watch. I cannot even comprehend how any man can speak to a woman like that.
Once again, Candace Owens is playing the woman versus man role as if a woman is any less than a man, right? And this is a woman who considers herself a conservative, but you're going to say that you don't understand how a man can speak to a woman like that? What does it have to do with the fact that she's a woman? I just want to read a couple of comments that's under Candace Owens' video. This is what a lot of her followers have said. I'm speaking from experience and not saying that this is the case. When I was a child, I witnessed a family member berate, insult, and yell at her husband until he broke and got really irate. The thing was that he was calm, reasonable, and rational up until a certain point of abuse when he just couldn't take it anymore. Then this family member started to record him on one of the micro cassette recorders she hid nearby, but only after he started to yell. Then when the recording started, she cried and asked why he was acting this way, that she loved him, she doesn't know what to do, called me skeptical, called me cynical. How long are the recordings saved by security cameras? Why is her shirt up and her belly out? Why is it not showing the video before the quote-unquote argument? Why does there seem to be a skip in the middle of the video? What staggers me is the way Candace is speaking about it in this situation. The verbiage, the outrage, calling him a monster, etc. After the whole issue with Crowder and the Daily Wire arose, she has been very anti-Crowder. I get it, we all have some tribal tendencies, but Owens is coming off as a tool for Daily Wire. Or maybe she is a believer of the whole believe the woman no matter what, only she knows. So my family member's husband is a decent guy, not any better nor any worse than most men in his demographic. This happened 30 years ago. She shared the recording with as many people as she could. Most of the family to this day don't like him, except the younger people, because I told them what really happened that day. I myself have been verbally and emotionally abused, but I always remembered how there could be a recorder somewhere and I kept my cool. Then when I wouldn't break, I got physically abused. Eventually I broke through. After being cheated on, was I perfect? No. I don't think anyone on earth is, but I'm willing to change and take honest criticism to heart. I later met someone with the same mentality and we've been together for 12 years now, I'm guessing. We've had a few arguments, but at the end of every one of those, we reached agreement and solutions. None of that agreed to disagree. Marriage is about love, compromises, I guess. I'll hold off a judgment for now, even if it seems all too familiar. Like I'm literally just going to scroll underneath Candace Owens' video. Literally. Instead of suing Stephen and bringing his wife into the spotlight, take your own advice and pray for Stephen. If you are a Christian, put your faith into action and pray. If you doubt Stephen's salvation, then pray for his soul. Keep your stones in your pockets because you too may need them for a giant one day. Candace, this is the very next comment. Candace, this honestly sounds like stuff better kept in the background. This sounds like drama you share with your friends instead of your online viewership. Same thing I said. I don't know. I feel like I'm eavesdropping on things that are not my business. 2 comments down. I get where you're coming from, but if you were being truly honest, you would admit that publicly saying that someone's going through something and you will pray for them without saying what that something is, just opens it up to speculation, insinuation, and gossip. So it seems you baited him. Now inviting his wife to come onto your show is just using this as perpetuation of more content. Time for you and Steven to land the plane. I agree. Candace, I would encourage you to refrain from the urge to write off all this criticism as Steven Crowder fans trolling me. I watch you way more than Crowder, and I think worse of you than I do of him in this situation. It feels like you're on this self-righteous streak. I don't seem to be the only one noticing it. You're right, I notice it too. That's okay, we all go through phases, but some humility is always good. He said, I picked wrong. He chose those words carefully. I think this situation is not going away anytime soon. I totally understand what he meant by that. When you have kids and she decides it is over, it is hard to explain what that feels like. It's about the worst thing that can happen in a decent man's life. A way to start coping with it and to not be hateful is to take responsibility. By saying that he picked wrong is trying to find a way to put the blame on himself. He probably believed in "Until Death Do Us Part," good times and bad. He has now found out that she does not. That is a big deal. He said that the divorce has been going on for a couple of years now, meaning she left him around the time of his surgery, and now he'll likely have to give her half his worth and pay her to raise the kids with some other man. So yeah, he picked wrong. Yeah, I'm not sure how he was bashing his wife. It sounded to me like he was also taking responsibility. Then Candace takes it and totally twists it. Candace has become something I don't like. I miss the old Candace, not the elitist Candace that thinks her doesn't stink. He is saying he picked wrong in this context is he wished he didn't go for someone who would leave him along the way. I rather think that he means he really wished she wouldn't leave. And then somebody responded and said, I was good friends with the couple. The wife left him 6 months after birth of their child. I was talking to her a year afterwards and asked if there was abuse of any kind. She said there wasn't any abuse, just that they were truly incompatible. From different areas of the country, different political parties, different views on life. So sad, they just grew apart. Candace going after that Jerry Springer money by inviting a lady on her show to crap on her marriage and ex-husband, LOL. From classy to trashy. I guess Dave was right. She really is a kind of a... You have a lot of valid points. I'm familiar with reactive abuse, and that's how it appeared to me. There's no context that he just got into hospital 2 days before. He bought her a Tesla and everyone attacks him for keeping her trapped. Oh my. A woman who doesn't work yet behaves as if any request a husband makes is too much. The wife edits the tape and damages his career and her kids' own economic future. Social media has become so bad and grotesque. People are too easily conned by a pregnant woman. This is a perfect example of what you described above. She is manipulating him to react in front of the camera and then has edited the footage to make him look bad. Check the timestamps. All is not as it seems here. Candace, I love you to pieces, but stay the hell out of this. Accept that his criticism of you are coming from a place of pain and fog. Love him, pray for him, forgive him no matter what. As a Christian, that's what you must do. As a Christian, this is what you need to demonstrate to the world we do. Be kind to him. Stay out of this, I beg you. And look, I don't want to make this about a woman versus man thing. Women are worse than men. Men are worse than women. This is not what this is about. This video, once again, is about context. And it's very interesting to me that context completely went out the window. Candace, you're just coming from a gossiping perspective. You have a bone to pick with Steven Crowder. And I agree with that one comment where he said, I just missed the old Candace. It's like, bro, just stick to the facts and leave it alone. This is something that should have been handled off camera, right? Officer Tatum, you are the quintessential example of somebody who politicizes everything for monetary gain. Right? Instead of trying to find solutions for the so-called black community, you're just bashing them, bro. You're just criticizing them, bro. And you understand that a lot of us come from these disenfranchised, disadvantaged, underserved communities. And a lot of us are coming from families that don't have a history in success, don't have a history of education. So what do you think the children are going to be like? Don't you think the odds are stacked up against them? But you don't talk about any of that on your show. You just bash them and you monetize every single video and you just make money, you laugh and you make fun of people. It's like, but what solution do you have, brother? But again, whenever you talk about white people, you don't have that same energy because they're white people. It has to be because of some other reason. I just don't respect it, bro. You all claim to be conservative, but you're hypocrites just like the left is, right? I don't know what y'all think about this, but let's be clear. I want to clear this up before this video ends, because this is the longest video I've ever dropped on this channel. I am not endorsing anybody to verbally abuse their wife, their husband, anybody. I'm not agreeing with that. I disagree that Steven Crowder spoke to his wife in a tone where it came off as mean, but I also understand that context is also important. And I also understand that when you watch something, but then you have somebody else's commentary on it and they lift it up as something a lot worse than what you're seeing, you have to be mindful of that. And a lot of people don't know how to differentiate mentally when they watch people react to videos. I know how to do that. I actually watched the video and I exited out the commentary. It's not as bad as you all make it out to be. He didn't assault her. He didn't grab her. He didn't do any of those things. Even y'all put on the screen about what he allegedly said he would do to her. There's no proof that he said he would F his wife up. This is why I could never be conservative. I could never be liberal. Bro, if you all are followers of Jesus Christ the way that you say, why don't you demonstrate it right now? This is the perfect time to do it, bro. Context don't matter anymore? How many of you out there have ever spoken to your significant other in an unfavorable fashion? Right? And it just wasn't recorded. But you're on your all high and mighty horse because somebody else did it. Right? Imagine how many videos it is out there. All you got to do is YouTube it. The amount of videos there are out there of police officers being pulled over for driving under the influence, for getting DUIs, crashing into other people's cars, damaging other people's property. But they're supposed to uphold the law. They hand out tickets all the time and give out DUIs all the time. But here they are doing the same thing. My point is, we are human beings. And it's like all of that goes out the window. This man don't have the right to be upset. This man don't have the right. No, it don't make it right. But he's a human being. But you're going to say that he's a monster, Candace Owens. Because why? He's a human and he's fighting for his marriage? And he's upset about something? This happens all the time in marriages. But you all pretend like it doesn't. Man, y'all in the comment section. Y'all give me y'all thoughts on what y'all think about this, man. Until next time. Peace.
Oh, yeah. Diddy got a podcast.